Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lancescurv. I'm glad to be here. I pushed the time of the show back a little bit. I had some things to do earlier, but I said I'm not going to not do the show. I just need a little extra time. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm in West Africa, Ghana. So I'm 5 hours ahead of the East Coast. So it's going to be probably a few more people who are watching because it's going to be, what now, 10 o'clock, 10 or 1 in the morning on the East. And what is that now? 7 on the West. So pretty much everybody's up. Whoever doesn't see it, they'll catch it as a replay. We've been having some phenomenal dialogues, and that's why I'm just so grateful for that. I just have to say, if you want to make room in your life and open up new doors, you got to take out the trash. There's no way you can keep the trash in the house and accept new furniture, new things, new people. You got to get rid of the trash. You got to make room. The trash takes up space. The trash brings vermin. The trash just doesn't bring anything good because you're done with it and it serves no purpose. So it's not a sin to take out the trash. Welcome, Terry Speeds, 49. Yes, Bluff City, Tennessee. Yes, in the house. I like that. Like I tell everybody before, when you come on in the chat room, just let us know where you are. If you want to give any shout outs to friends or high schools or colleges or any kind of group or anything or anyone, please feel free to do so. You know, it's a positive energy thing. And for those of our family, our ancestors who have transitioned, you know, shout out their names too. I'm not going to say it immortalizes them, but other people will see it, and that's good energy. We're all energy in different forms. I'm very, very relaxed. Just a little while ago, I wasn't dozing like I wanted to sleep because I was sleepy. It was just from just being balanced. And so many of us are walking around and we're not in a balanced state. I'm not saying I'm the epitome of that. I'm just saying that I experienced this a little while ago and more in my life. And it's a pleasurable feeling just to be. Peaceful Pulley, welcome on in Columbus, Ohio in the house. Yes, I'm glad you're here. Yes, you're definitely an early person because when I did that show early the other day, you were right there. So I'm like, okay, I got to stick with that formula because Peaceful Pulley will be there. But yes, we're talking about balance and how good it is to be balanced. And it's just a pleasure just to be when everything is calibrated the right way, mentally, physically, spiritually. You're fed, you're nourished, you're hydrated, you're rested, you got positive thoughts, you got a good day ahead of you. You don't have any trash that you have to throw out. You're cleaned out, you threw out the trash, and you're humming, you're vibrating, you're centered, you're ready. If you don't have that feeling, there's something you got to do to bring yourself into that feeling. You have to figure out what it is, analyze your life, analyze yourself, analyze those who are around you, and make those changes. You got to understand too, just like a cell phone, a smartphone that's at 100%, you could be at 100%, right? And sometimes you sit your cell phone down at 100%, you come back as 97. You're like, I didn't use this phone. But it's a natural way that the energy, the power in the battery will go down. If you sit it there for a year, what do you think it's going to be, right? So it takes energy just to be what it is. But then now, the way humans are, right? HUE-MAN, when we're around other people who have the negative charge to them, it pulls ours down just being around us. A lot of us don't understand that. So this is why I don't even want to be around. I don't want to have any exchange, any dialogue. I don't even want to get eye contact with any of these entities because it pulls out of you the energy that you can be using to ascend. And when you master this and you just do this automatically, you'll find that you remain at 100% for the longest time without losing any charge. Yes, today we're going to speak about addiction. There's more to addiction than the substances. You know, we focus on the various addictions, mostly drug addiction, alcohol and obvious things. But there's so many other addictions. But the thing, we're talking about addiction. And there's not one of us out here who has not had close proximity to one who may have had some type of addiction, or maybe some of us may have had some type of addiction. It can go deep. There are things that sometimes we don't want to talk about. Let me know how the sound sounds because on last night's show, when I played it back, the sound sounded kind of iffy. Like, wait a second, was there some kind of connection lacking? What I'm going to do, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to this one and make sure that it's playing right. Because if it comes off good where I am, that means it's good. So you might hear an echo for a second. I have to check that because that was a dynamic show last night. And Dr. Tracy Bonds came and knocked the ball out the park. Mic drop. So, but my sound was kind of suspect there. So I just want to make sure. So you might hear something here. What's going on here? I'm trying to play this thing. Okay, I think here we go. Okay, it's where I want it to be. Good. I got to do it on every show because sometimes the wire will slip out. Sometimes little things happen and I don't even know about it. But yeah, it's a beautiful day out here, and I'm just so settled. We take these headphones off because there's nobody else talking, and let's get down to business. We have 17 people in so far, and yes, it'll take time for more people to come on in, but it's okay. You'll see this as a video. We're going to keep doing what we do. Through thick and thin, through high roads or low roads, through the famine and the floods, nothing's going to stop us from doing what we have to do because, as you have to understand, you know, people have been asking me, they've been saying, Lance, you should be at 500,000 subscribers. You should be here. You should be there. And I'm like, well, you know what it is. You see, but the thing what people don't realize is that what you do on one platform or one area of your life, it transfers over. So all of this work that I've been doing all these years, it transfers over to other endeavors that I will be doing. And that has nothing to do with YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. It becomes something of yours that shows that you put the work in. So everything that you do, even if it's not appreciated by some in the future, in other factions, it will be appreciated by others. So you don't worry about that. You worry about, and I don't mean worry, but you concern yourself with putting out the effort, putting out the work, doing what it is that you have to do from within. Because what's appreciated by some or not appreciated by some will be appreciated by others. It takes more than 1 month to stop a show, right? So this is why I forge forward with what I do. I don't look for the external. I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it well. That's all that's required. But yeah, delving into the intricate web of addiction, seeking to understand its multifaceted nature, exploring its various forms and shedding light on the profound impact it has on individuals, families, and communities. So we don't understand. We see a person who's an addict. It reverberates out their life. So we may see the addict, and these are my words that I'm saying. We may see the addict, but that addict and the implosion of their life, and we see the substances that they use, it's beyond the substances. It's not just the substances. The substances are an indication of something going on deeper. Individuals, families, and communities. It's not just them. Now, I wouldn't call them a failure. It's a mishap. It's something that went wrong, but it's not just them. When you see an addict, and when I see an addict, I see the failure of society. It's not just them, right? I was listening to a boxing interview, and NFN Shaka, welcome on in, Dominican Republic in the house. And it was an interview with the boxer Deontay Wilder, the former heavyweight champ of the world from Alabama. And he took a loss this past weekend to a fighter named Joseph Parker. And everybody expected Deontay Wilder to win. But Deontay Wilder lost every round of that fight. But he was still upbeat because he realized how blessed he was to have achieved the countless millions that he has and to know and have sense to know how to work it, to secure his family. I believe he has a special needs daughter. And before he was boxing professionally, he got into it and he said, listen, I'm going to get into this thing to secure my daughter because it's a lot of medical fees that go along with, you know, keeping her health up to par. I don't know exactly what it is, but that's what the story is. So in that, he's a success, right? One man, one woman can forge forward with a dream. And other people can say, well, you lost the fight, you failed, you're a loser, you're this, you're that, you're shot, you know. But he achieved his goal. So he is blessed, but he has some questioning to do to himself on the inside. He has to question whether he has it to keep going on in such a rough sport, because it is a rough sport. Esther Garner, welcome. Yes. Seattle, Washington in the house. Esther Garner, thank you. Thank you. I just get a kick of knowing where everybody is from. Even if I already know, I like seeing it. And people who watch and look at the chat room, they'll say, hey, you know, that's where I'm from or whatever. I love to see that, right? But what one person may call a failure is another person's being a victor, you know? And we have those out here who have addictions that are obvious, right? But what's the difference? You have one person who is a crack addict, who doesn't have a support system, who is out in the street compromising their former integrity to do what it is that they have to do to keep that habit going of self-medicating. It's not so much that they love the crack, as they hate the way they feel deep down inside, that void, that emptiness, and self-medicating takes them away from that. I've observed this, I can't even say countless, thousands and thousands of times on different levels, sitting down with people when I worked in the jail and with those who are incarcerated and really having real conversations with them, which really has increased my insight into different conditions. And I take myself and put myself in their shoes and I'm like, wow, I never thought of it that way. But what is addiction? At its core, addiction is a complex condition characterized by an individual's compulsive engagement with a substance or behavior despite harmful consequences. It is chronic. It is a chronic relapsing disorder that affects the brain's reward, motivation, and related systems. The types of addictions: drug addictions, substances like opioids, cocaine, and methamphetamines; alcohol addictions, excessive and compulsive consumption of alcoholic beverages; porn addictions, obsessive consumption of explicit materials. Now, this is what a lot of folks don't understand. They'll knock the drug addict, they'll knock the alcoholic, and go home and consume porn, which will affect that brain the same way. But you don't see the porn in their hand when they're in the outside world. You don't see the porn when they're in the church or on the job. It's even, to me, even more deadly because it's something you can lie about and it's something you can get into and something that can captivate you to the point where it takes over so many productive hours of your life. Hours. I've spoken with many porn addicts and they've told me, you know, sometimes and of course, they're not just watching this stuff. Let's be real. We're adults here, right? They watch this and masturbate. But it does something to the brain because I'm not saying it's larger than life, but life is not like this. So when they go out into the outside world, they can't relate because they're so bombarded with these larger than life images of instant erotic activity. I'll keep it decent. And in the back of their mind, they're looking for it. It's going to happen. Well, maybe and in their relationships, it changes the dynamics of relationships and also what you expect from a woman when you're a man and what you expect from a man when you're a woman, because women, ever increasing numbers, indulge in that also. And maybe it's a different way they do so, right? I've spoken to many women who are addicted to porn also. And they told me it's more from an emotional void for them, that they use that for the visuals when they really want to go there safely, but they just don't want to go with any other man. We got to do a show on that on a deeper level. And there are a lot of people that I talk to that don't want to come onto the show because their voices are really unique, and they fear that somebody would discover them. So I say, okay, no problem. But can I speak on it the way you tell me? I'm not going to say your name. They say, no problem. So trust and believe we will be covering all different types of situations. But these addictions, to me, there's a spiritual void also, which is never really addressed. It's never really addressed. If it's addressed in a religious way, which is flat, because religion and spirituality are like two different things, but people don't realize that. They think they're being spiritual by just being religious, and it's a completely different ball game. But some of the lesser known addictions, what are they? Technology addiction, overdependence on digital devices. Wow. Some people are high tech, they like it. Some people are addicted to it. Some people could take a broom and sweep the floor, but if there was some technological device that can sweep the floor for you, they'll go out and spend hundreds of dollars on it just to be high tech because they're addicted to technology. It's not just using technology, but being addicted to it. Everything has to be something of this advanced technology. They're addicted to it. You also have exercise addiction, compulsive exercise with potential harm. And I can't say I was there, but I was near that at one point in my life when I was involved in competitive bodybuilding. It was like my body was a machine. It did what I told it to do. Case closed. But that's not the way to go about it, because you can burn out, you can get injuries, which I had like about 4 major different injuries. One on my shoulder, one my lower back, the slip disc, the knee, and an elbow. And thank the creator that those things don't really bother me today. Now my lower back would come back if I do certain things and do certain movements and stress it a certain way, but I know how to work around that. It's just really bad, because anything can become an addiction. We think something healthy, is, we can run it down. Well, it's healthy to be a vegan and eat a certain way. Is it really? Is it really? What is, just like any other addiction, what is it behind this compulsive behavior that you're doing that the world says is okay, but you're running it down? We have work addictions, excessive focus on work to the detriment of personal life. We have people who will work 2 and 3 jobs and they feel they're doing something, but they're only trading off life force for mere money. What is it about your life that you have to be working? Then you come home and you clean, and you do this and you do that. What are you running away from in your mind? Those are addictions. Some people will say, and they'll reward you. Oh, you're a hard worker. You're great. You're disciplined. No, you're not. You got a work addiction. And this is not everybody who works a lot, because sometimes you have to. There was a time when I got caught up in the whole work addiction thing. A lot of us used to compete with each other when I worked in the jail. We used to go for overtime, and it didn't matter. We'd turn right around and come back into the jail with the same uniform on, sleep out in the car for 2 hours just to be in position to get that overtime. There was about 6 of us in the jail that I worked in Orange County, 33rd Street, right? And I was known as the overtime king, but there were some guys that were right behind me, and some guys beat me on certain weeks, and we would compare. And we would even help each other out sometimes. And, certain supervisors would say, hey, do you have SCURV's number? Yeah, I'm going to give him a call. I got some overtime for him because these other guys already had it. SCURV, you want to come on in? Yeah, I'll be there in an hour. And all of that time and money that I made went down the drain and into waste because I was living in balance. And that was for other reasons. The relationship that I was in, I didn't want to be home. So it was easy to go and do all this overtime, right? We have shopping addictions, compulsive buying, often leading to financial issues. Hey, look, when you have the money and you purchase something, it's a nice feeling. I'm not going to knock anybody for that. But it's compulsive. With all of these addictions, it's something else that you're running away from that you don't want to face, right? So the compulsive buying, there are people that I know that shop every week. They do have the money for it, but really, do they? But they shop every single week and they pile up things, and they have closets full of clothes that still have tags on it, shoes piled up to the ceilings. Why? And you're still going out looking for the sale. You're still going out there looking to do more. What's wrong with your self-esteem when you have to shop like this? Then you have food addictions, obsessive overeating, or unhealthy food consumption. Excessive. You're full. Your body has nutrition. Even if it doesn't, and you're full, you still keep shoving food down your throat. One of the best feelings is when you're a little hungry. I was going to say fatigued. You see you're working out in your backyard. The sun's been beating down on you. You're a little thirsty, a little hungry, and you take a break. That's when the meal is the sweetest thing. But when you're constantly stuffing your face, it loses the allure. And I always tell people, I say, listen, if you like chocolate cake or whatever kind of cake you like, And I tell you, for the next 5 years, you are not allowed to eat chocolate cake. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to start fiending for it. And so now that you told me that chocolate cake is your favorite, well, if I say it's really your favorite, yeah, I can eat it every day. Okay, next meal, all you get is chocolate cake. All right, no problem, man. I love that. Okay, for dinner, you're going to have chocolate cake. And for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 5 months. You know how quick the time will go before the time that you're sick of this chocolate cake? You understand? So it won't taste good anymore. With the food addictions, it's not about the food. Now, in a very thin slice, it could be, because we oftentimes overeat to make up or try to gain a nutrient that we're deficient in. So when we get that nutrient, the need to overeat ceases. That's a different thing. But this food addiction with the compulsive overeating is something else wrong. And we also have things that are connected to the pleasure centers of the brain that override the pain that we're feeling in our life from something that bugs the hell of us to force us to self-medicate in the first place. Right? Gaming addictions, excessive engagement in video or online games. I'll tell you, back in 1990, right before my father transitioned, and we kind of knew, right? And right after, I had an old Nintendo. It was old because I think Nintendo was around from the mid 80s. So it was 1990. It was a couple years old. I forgot who gave it to me. Lance, I got a couple of these. Take this one. I had Paperboy on there. I had Super Mario. What was the other one I had? Now, those are the 2 games I had. I didn't have to have 50 games, right? Sometimes a little dust on it. You had to blow in there for it to work right. And I escaped into the Super Mario game around the time that my father passed away. Now, I wasn't some child. I was 27 years old. That was 1990. But it offered escape for me. Not that I was running away from that, but I was in pain for many reasons. One of my best friends, although parents don't have to be your best friend, we've learned to have a friendship, and he was my father. And although he had Alzheimer's and sugar diabetes and stuff, his mind was slipping, still, he was my father, and we had fun together. You know what I mean? And I learned so much, and he was a protective entity over me as a man and a first example of manhood. And it hurt me to see him slip in his condition. So it wasn't just gaming that I got into, but since we brought it up, it reminded me of that aspect where sometimes I would sit there and play this game over and over well into the night until I fell asleep. So it wasn't per se an addiction, but it was a reaction. But it was the closest thing to an addiction on that level that I had. So I just had to bring that one up. Understanding addictions. Addictions often stem from a combination of factors: emotional void, seeking comfort or escape from emotional pain; spiritual void, a lack of purpose or connection to something greater; mental void, coping with mental health issues or stress; physical void, using substances to cope with physical pain or discomfort. Wow. And just imagine, it's not as cut and dried, because we just said emotional void, spiritual void, mental void, physical void. But could you imagine when it's maybe 50% spiritual, 25% emotional, right? 15% mental and 10% physical? How do you deal with that? That's a complex bit of stuff on your plate. So we just can't say and say in a one-size-fits-all manner, okay, we'll deal with the mental and that's okay. It's a mental health issue, but it may also be emotional. Again, I noticed this when working with those who are incarcerated, and how the answer in the facility was to medicate people. They wouldn't say that that's just what it was, but after a diagnosis on an emotional level, spiritual level, mental level, physical level, oh, okay, we got some medication for you. So you're self-medicating all over again. You're not having people talk about their issues and facing their issues. We're into this whole cover-up thing. Dwayne Reed, Walgreens, CVS, take a pill. What happened to getting away from this hectic society, which helps to increase these voids? Because we're not going to get the answer in the engineered man-made world. The engineered man-made world is just going to make it worse. There's no answer there. There's only escapism. And I find it very interesting that the place where there's the most pain, the black neighborhoods, the poor black neighborhoods, you have the crack house, you got the liquor house, you got the whore house, and you got the church house. And they're all there for escapism. If it's not the bottle with some liquor, or the pipe with some crack, or the whore house with another form of crack, I had to say that. It's the church house with the Jesus crack. The Jesus crack in the wrong way, right? We'll say it that way, because that's another hustle where they profit off of your voice, but you never get there. Because what they're teaching there, the way they do it, it's not going to fill you up. None of these things are going to fill you up. You got to face what it is that's bothering you. And we have substance abuse versus addiction. Two different things. Substance abuse involves the harmful or hazardous use of psychoactive substances, while addiction is a more severe chronic form marked by dependence and compulsive behavior. See, substance abuse, you can grab the substance, right? But just the addiction is more in the gray area. How are you going to snatch the porn from somebody? How are you going to snatch the anger management issues? There are people who are addicted to anger. A very close and good friend of mine who I consider a brother, we were speaking on the phone the other night, and we were speaking about a mutual friend of ours who really doesn't speak to both of us anymore because his ideologies took him somewhere else. See, he was a guy who had Middle Eastern roots, and he looked to be Caucasian, but he had curly hair, but he wasn't black as far as African is concerned. And he hung with us when we were younger, right? Teenagers, we were going to the gym, doing bodybuilding, doing boxing, and just good, clean fun. Sometimes a fight here or there. And I have a call right here that I have to answer. I'm not even going to block it up. Let me just answer this call real quick. Hey, brother. Yes, you downstairs? Okay, give me 3 minutes. I'll be down there and I'll open the door for you. Okay, all right. Yeah, no problem. So you heard that. So, I got to skedaddle in 3 minutes. But no, I'm not going to end the show. I'm just going to finish this explanation, put a little music, and then I'll open the door, and then I'll continue on. Yeah, so we never saw the difference in our races, right? In his family's ideology, and he had issues with his family. It was a bunch of brothers, right? And they were all in pain for whatever reason. I have my reasons for thinking so, and I'm going to express that also. They all had problems with their manhood. They had to prove they were men. And this particular friend of ours, he was always ready to fight. But really and truly, he was no fighter. Maybe more so than the general public. But we were young. I might have been 15. He might have been 17, 18. These brothers always had a couple years on me. So every little time that we were in public and he saw somebody who he believed was homosexual and not bothering him, he'd find a way to try to pick a fight with them. And we didn't agree with that. The guy wasn't bothering you. He didn't put his hand on you. Why are you doing this? He would always sometimes say, well, I'm upset. I'm going to go out and look for a fight. And this guy had no integrity because we found out what he's done behind other friends' backs with their girlfriends and stuff like that. The guy was no good that way. Well, anyway, we all challenged each other to a boxing match in the backyard one day. And because I was a little younger, he always thought that I could take him. I whipped his behind. He had to get a little bit of humble pie. And I was crude in those days. I was only 15 years old, but I beat him from one fence to the next. And see, as he got older, he started to identify with people according to their race, and he looked at us different. So that's why we kind of like fell away from each other. And I told my friend, because he was speaking to him more than me. It's not like I wasn't speaking to him, but they were all friends, and I came into that circle. And so they would always have political arguments and stuff. But he was the same guy, always looking to pick some kind of fight. If it wasn't physical, it was ideological, on ideology. So I said, listen, you want to get under his skin? Let him know that no matter what, you're not white. You're not accepted into their society, no matter how much you try to push yourself into that. That's a whole different topic, but I had to run with that. The main thing is that he was always addicted to anger. He got a rush from anger. Him and all his brothers took out this anger in different ways. One almost made it to the Olympics in track. The other one got into bodybuilding, so they messed around with drugs at a young age, steroids and stuff. And I forgot what the other one was into, but I believe they all were molested, and they all had this anger inside of them that they had to prove to the world their greatness. But this one here, what I'm talking about, yeah, because anytime he saw a homosexual, he would lose it. And there was one morning I was on a train with him, and he saw one of the neighborhood guys who we all knew. He didn't bother nobody, but he went to pelting on him and beating him down, and I had to pull him off. I'm like, you can't do this, man. You can't pick, and he would only pick people he can beat up on. I couldn't take being around him because I didn't know what I was going to get myself into being around this guy. But he never put his hands on me after that time in the backyard. That's one thing for sure. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play a little music, and I will be back. I'll be back before the song is over. I just have to open up the door and deal with my buddy here who's helping me with a few little projects around here. Okay, so thank you so much for understanding. Let me just find something that'll play. Okay, here we go. If it runs out, which it shouldn't, but it should play over again, but I'll be right back. Just bear with me all. I'll be right back.
I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less.
All right. I'm back. Sorry for taking so long. Yes, sound is good. Let me get back in here and see what's going on. Okay. Now. All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Mixed Genre Faves. Yes, it's a transition, but, we carry on with what was put into us, not just even through our parents, but those who fed something into us, and it's very important to really acknowledge that, because a lot of us don't. We're the sum total of not only our experiences, but what people fed into us. It's very, very important to acknowledge that. So all the experiences, all of the people, all of the things, negative and positive, have made us to what we are in today. But we have to realize that. So we have to realize that we're like a walking billboard. You ever see those flat vehicles that drive up and down and they have logos on the side, or they advertise like a rolling billboard? Well, that's what we are. We show what we're made of. We show what's internal by what was fed into us and what we absorbed. So our atmosphere, the environment, doesn't always dictate who we're going to be. Some people say, hey, man, that's a smart guy. Man, I can't believe it. He's from the hood. He's a smart guy. So you can't be from the so-called hood and be smart? Or you see somebody from an affluent area, no matter what the race, you expect them to have manners and they're rude and ignorant. You say, wait a second, they're from, it doesn't matter. Your atmosphere, the environment doesn't dictate. It will have an influence now. Believe that. But it does not dictate what you're going to be ultimately. And you have a lot of control into what you absorb. Understanding addictions, right? We went past that part already. Substance abuse versus addiction. Impact on individuals and communities. Addictions reach, extends beyond the individual. I was saying that earlier. Family impact, strained relationships, emotional distress, and financial strain. I've experienced that, unfortunately, through my older brother. Work and community impact, decreased productivity, social isolation, and strained community resources. Wow. Hidden struggles. Some individuals manage to conceal their addictions, maintaining an outwardly normal appearance, while others spiral into homelessness and crime due to lack of support. That's right. Overcoming addiction. Recovery involves addressing the root causes, mental health support, access to therapy and counseling, spiritual connection. That's the one I was talking about earlier. A lot of times we don't address that. Finding purpose and meaning, emotional healing, coping mechanisms, and healthy outlets. Physical well-being, addressing physical health issues. Recidivism in statistics. The cycle of relapse is a challenge with high recidivism rates. In the United States and globally, addiction touches millions of lives. I'd say billions. I'm not saying billions of addicts, but if you have millions of addicts, it's going to touch billions of lives. Combating drug trade. Understanding the covert ties between the drug trade and governments is crucial. Combating the flow of drugs requires international cooperation, strict law enforcement, and community education. Predatory entities. Individuals in the grip of addiction often face exploitation. Addressing the root causes of addiction reduces vulnerability to such predators. In conclusion, addiction